If you've been to the store lately, you have probably looked at some of the prices and went, wow, that is a lot more than it was a couple years ago. That was a lot more than it was 10 years ago. And it's very easy to blame the president that you don't like. So you can come up with the names of ones that you don't like, and then you can blame them, and that's often the case. But what I have found, I've been studying the history of money and how money works, and I have found a nugget of knowledge that I did not know before that blew my mind about how money works. So I guess I gotta kind of tell a story to explain this, and you'll understand why prices just keep going up. Hint, it has to do with inflation. But inflation is actually something that's programmed into our money. It's going to happen. Things are never gonna come down. They're always going to go up. And here's why. In 1933, there was the beginning, actually I think we were in the Great Depression, and unemployment was 25%, and President FDR just got elected. In fact, he actually got elected with a 88% electoral vote. So whopping, people wanted him as president. And so it's actually crazy. 88% is huge. People wanted him as the president. They agreed with what he was thinking. And what I thought was interesting is one of the first things he did as president was not officially, but he unofficially declared war against an economic crisis. And so one of the things that the U.S. likes to do is to declare war against things. The war on drugs, the war on the Great Depression. And so in times of war, the president gets tons of power. They can do things they can't normally do. And so tying this back to inflation, one of the things he did was called Executive Order 6102. So Executive Order 6102. Now what this executive order did was, it blew my mind. It made owning gold illegal. You cannot own gold. Did you know the U.S. made gold owning illegal? So the first thing they did was say, hey, there's a couple day period where you can sell your gold to us at an average price of $20.67 an ounce for each ounce of gold that you have. And you better sell it to us, because if you don't, it's going to be illegal in the future. So what happened was the U.S. basically bought up a whole bunch of the citizens' gold and then made it illegal. And so you might be wondering, why would they make this gold owning illegal? Citizens should just be able to own stuff they want to own, including gold. Well, the U.S. was on something called the gold standard back then, which meant for every dollar of gold they owned, they could print $2.50 of bills. So when they bought a dollar, they could immediately profit, the government could immediately profit and make $2.50 of paper money that they would give back to the citizens. So right off the bat, if the U.S. government bought a dollar of gold, they could make a profit. So that's why they were like, hey, you have to sell us your gold, so that then we would immediately make a profit. So the U.S. bought a whole bunch of gold. In fact, they bought around a quarter of all the gold that they had originally minted. The U.S. bought back. And we can tell this because the U.S. minted certain coins, and those were the coins that the U.S. government received back when we said, hey, it's going to be illegal, you have to sell your gold to us. Which means 3/4 of the citizens said, we're going to keep our gold, and if we go to jail, we'll go to jail. Which is actually really interesting. And people did go to jail. There's actually a lot of cases of people, the executive order saying it's illegal to own gold, and then people going to jail for it. So anyways, the U.S. is hoarding this gold because we need gold to print more money. Well, why did we want to print more money? Well, the idea was the nation was in an economic depression. We called it the Great Depression because people were hoarding their gold. They were literally like, we want to keep our gold. And then the government came in and was like, no, we need the gold. You have to sell it to us, and you can't own it anymore. And there were some stipulations, you could own, I think, $100 of gold. The first $100 you could keep, and if the gold was jewelry, or if it was special coins that were from the 1500s, you could technically keep that gold. Now, after they basically took all of that gold from the citizens and paid them back an average amount of $20.67, a year after that, the U.S. government, I think it's called the 1934 Federal Reserve Act, raised the price of gold. Now, you might be wondering, why in the world did they raise the price of gold if the citizens couldn't trade it? Well, remember how I said for every dollar of gold they had, they could print $2.50? Basically, they were cooking their books. They were saying, hey, we actually have more dollar value of gold, even though the amount of gold stayed the same. They had the same amount of gold, but they said it was worth more so that they could print more dollar bills. So basically, they're like, we need to print more money. And they did. They printed a lot more money. Like, they could print 75% more money because the price of gold, they raised it from $20.67 that they bought from all the citizens, and a year later, they raised it to $35. And that is a 75% increase. And a lot of people were really mad at this because they're like, I could have just held on to my gold and sold it to you now for a 75% increase. And there were lawsuits about it. You can look this stuff up. 1934 Federal Reserve Act. So when they raised the price of gold, the government was like, the price of gold is now $35. And Executive Order 6102 is the one where the president was literally like, it's illegal to own gold. This is like real stuff in history. Now, fast forward in time, the government just keeps printing money. So if the value of gold is the same, but they're printing more money, what does that mean? That doesn't mean the value of gold is more. It means the value of the dollar is less. So when we say inflation, the wording is really important. We say stuff costs more. What we really should be saying is, man, this dollar is worthless. This dollar is really worth less now than it was. Of course, the government tries really hard to make you say that stuff is raising in price, because when it raises in price, you can blame the corporations, you can blame other people. You know, the plumber that is coming in to fix your house, you can blame him for raising his prices. What's really happening is the government is just printing a lot more money, and because there's more of it, it's worth less, worthless. It's actually the government's fault because they're printing more money. But so the wording is really important. We say it's their fault because prices are going up. Well, what's really happening is that the value of the dollar is going down. So the prices, are technically changing, but what's getting manipulated is the value of the dollar, what the dollar can buy. And so I said earlier it was illegal to own gold. So you're thinking now, I can buy gold. What happened? When was it made legal again? It was technically made legal in 1974. And they said you can own gold again. But here's the thing. In 1971, we went off the gold standard. So we basically were like, we need to print more money, and there's no more gold for us to get from our citizens. We'll just go off the gold standard. We don't need gold anymore. We'll just print as much money as we want. When we want more money, we'll just ask the president, ask the Federal Reserve, can we print more money? And if they say yes, we'll just print more dollar bills, put more in circulation. And that's exactly what happened. And in the last couple of years, we've been printing a ton of money, and that's why the price of things in the past couple of years have really gone up. Technically, they haven't gone up. The value of the dollar has just gone down because we've printed so much of it. We've been printing tons of money, just adding more zeros to a digital bank account, and when there's more of it, it's worth less. Anyways, it's just really interesting that the U.S. went off the gold standard, and when they went off the gold standard, they said, you know what, it's not illegal to own gold anymore. Our citizens can own gold because the government didn't need it anymore. So the moral of the story here, I guess there's two morals. The first one is the dollar, if you hold a dollar, putting it in a savings account, it's just going to keep getting worth less and less because the economic system isn't designed for the dollar to gain value. It's designed so that each year the dollar loses value. And if you actually look into this, the Federal Reserve actually has a goal to hit 2% a year. They want it to lose 2% of value each year. That's their goal. So it's not wise to just hoard cash. It's usually, if you look at the wealthiest people in the nation, they're not hoarding cash. They don't have a whole bunch of cash. They have a whole bunch of assets. So they have a whole bunch of real estate. They have a whole bunch of stocks because those things go up in value throughout time while cash will go down in value. Anyways, moral number one, the U.S. economic system is designed so that things will constantly cost more and more and more. If you look at real estate in the past couple of years, real estate has gone way up, like doubled in price. That's because we have printed a ton of money. So real estate hasn't really gotten more valuable. The US dollar has just gotten worth less. Moral number two, if the government wants something, they'll find a way to get it. They wanted more gold, and they made gold illegal. Now, even though 3/4 of the gold was not returned, they printed I don't remember the number. I probably should have written it down or something. But they realized how much money they got back from their citizens was only 25% of the gold that they initially like sold to their citizens as gold coins. And so basically, if they wanted that gold, they could have like just came into your house and got it. And that wasn't the case. A lot of the cases where people had gold and got prosecuted for it, I think up to like 10 years in prison just for owning gold, just for having it, was in the case where it was like in lock boxes or large amounts were deposited into banks, and bankers could be like, hey, there's gold in this account right here. But anyways, I just wanted to share this story. I really learn really well when I share stories. So by telling this story, I am understanding the story better, and I can tell it better in the future. And I wanted to share it so that in the future maybe I could look back and be like, that's crazy. That the government wanted gold so they could print more money, basically to inflate the value of the dollar. And to do so, they bought it from the citizens, number one. Then they made it illegal. And then they jacked the price of gold up 75% so that they could cook their books and say that they are allowed to print more money. And then eventually they went off the gold standard, and now we can print however much we want. So just something to think about. Thought it would be an interesting video to make. Maybe I'll watch this in the future and like my mind will be blown again when I forget about it, but I'll talk to you guys later.